Welcome back to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome into Cody Talks NFL. It's week 14. We're here. That's kind of crazy when you think about it. You know, they haven't missed a game. We've had a couple close calls this year, but we're, almost 75%. I think maybe I should have did the math. We're at least more than 75% away with the season. We got the last few weeks to see these playoffs form, and we'll have some playoff football come January. I'm going to go ahead and get into today's episode of Cody Talks NFL. It's going to be your typical episode this week. There are no bye weeks anymore. The Bucs and the Panthers were the last teams to have bye weeks in week 13, and every team is full goal now. So we have all 32 teams facing in matchups every week. How this episode will work? I'm going to quickly recap last night's game. Not much to recap. You know, it's a Rams dominant performance. We got a happy producer on the other side from last night's game. Now, I'm going to give out my Blitzalytics prospect encyclopedia player of Thursday Night Football. I'm going to dive into the Sunday 1 p.m. games, the 4 p.m. games, the Sunday Night Football game, the Monday Night Football game, and then get you guys out of here so you can enjoy your weekend. I'm going to go ahead and get this started, though. As we all saw last night, the Rams completely dominated the New England Patriots. They won 24-3. The Rams improved to a 9-4 record. The Patriots are now sitting at a 6-7 record. Starting with the Rams, their defense is super impressive. Aaron Donald is having a Defensive Player of the Year type performance like he does every year, making his case to be the best defensive player ever to play in the NFL. And then they got guys like Jalen Ramsey on the outside, making plays. You know, I loved, I don't know if anybody saw it, but Aaron Donald was doing the post-game interview, and he came up and he showed his unselfishness as a player, and he promoted AD as the Defensive Player of the Year during his interview. So that was kind of a cool sight to see. Those two work perfectly in that defense, and they pretty much just dominated the Patriots offense. The offensive line could not protect Cam. They couldn't even protect Stidham when he came in, and they were just getting the sacks on them. They got the big pick by Kenny Young for the pick 6, and they're making a case that this is definitely a defense you don't want to face come playoff time. But obviously they just got to keep on stacking those wins because, you know, even though they did beat the Seahawks in the previous matchup, Seahawks are right now, you know, one game behind them, but the Seahawks, I'll talk about it here later, but they got the Jets this week. We all kind of know how that's going to go. And then I believe they do face the Rams either next week or the following week, but either way, it's looking like it's going to come down between the Rams and the Seahawks on who will win the NFC West and who will be forced to be a wild card team. At the Patriots side, that's basically it's kind of a, I don't know if it's necessary poetic justice. Poetic justice would have been the Rams that beat them in the Super Bowl matchup, but it's kind of fitting that, you know, Patriots got their dynasty started against the Rams. Their last Super Bowl again was against the Rams, and then it looks like the Rams might be the team that officially knocked them out of the playoff picture. Now I know the Patriots could go on a 3-game winning streak, finish 9-7, and have games fall their way, and they can maybe sneak in as a wild card. It just seems so unlikely right now because there's so many teams in the AFC that either have 3 or 4 losses right now. So it's going to be a very tight race to finish as a wild card. They literally need everything to fall their way, and it's just not their year. They had a bunch of guys opt out at the beginning of the season. You know, Cam Newton has been effective as a runner, but he's been up and down as a passer. I'm not sure if he's going to be their future of the quarterback position. They're probably going to either have to, you know, look into the trade market, maybe for like a Matthew Stafford. Maybe they will have cap space. Maybe they're a Carson Wentz landing spot, or, you know, with them, depending on how the season finishes, if they kind of fall flat on their faces and finish 6-10, maybe they have a top 10 pick and they can get one of these top 5 quarterbacks in the draft class. But yeah, I think they'll probably end up finishing, though, maybe around 7-9, 8-8. You know, Bill Belichick will probably, you know, fight to the end. He's not just going to give up like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the Thursday night recap. I'm going to give out my Blitzalytics prospect encyclopedia player of Thursday Night Football. And that goes out to number 23 for the Rams, Cam Akers, their rookie running back out of Florida State. He had a I mean, what a breakout performance. I mean, he got all the snaps compared to Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown, and he took it and ran with it. 29 rushes, 171 yards. He also had 2 receptions for 23 yards, so he did have 194 yards on the day. That 171 rushing yards is the most by a rookie running back against a Bill Belichick and New England Patriots team. And as Rob pointed out to me too before the show, that's actually the most for a Rams rookie ever. So he took the opportunity, and now he's probably supplanted himself as the lead dog in that backfield as the Rams make the push towards the playoff picture. As always, with the Blitzalytics Prospect Encyclopedia Player of Thursday Night Football, I like to read a part of their section. Now, the Rams section was written by our own Jack Bourgeois. He did the Rams, and Cam Akers was his number 2 prospect on that. As always, I try to show it off for you guys. Kind of a little teaser. The number 1 prospect gets that bigger one, and then 2 through 7, they get strength, weaknesses, and overview. I almost said big picture. I was thinking about our normal blitz scouting reports. I'm going to read the overview from Jack's section. Jack wrote about Akers. Akers was arguably the most well-rounded running back in the 2020 NFL draft, with Malcolm Brown only effective on early downs and Darrell Henderson used primarily as a change of pace back. Akers allows Sean McVay to have a more diverse playbook with the same personnel. Although Akers has competition, he'll likely be a 3-down workhorse in the offense desperate to regain its run-centric approach. That was pretty spot on with Jack. Just like we have always said, we said this at the beginning of the year. I know me and Rob were really pushing this, not only for Akers, but other rookie running backs in a similar situation. But, he was just going to have to work his way to that lead back role, take his rookie lumps at the beginning part of the season. And now he's showing, like what Jack just wrote in that section, that he can be a 3-down back in the NFL and allow their offense to open up things. I think that's why we saw that offense be so efficient last night, especially when he was running that rock like he did. But yeah, that recaps that game. I'm gonna go ahead and get into these Sunday games. We got a big matchup to start off on our Sunday afternoon slate, or Sunday 1 p.m. slate. We got Minnesota traveling to Tampa Bay to face the Buccaneers. That's an injury note. So I'll start with the Vikings injury report. These 3 players have not practiced. Eric Kendricks with a calf, Kyle Rudolph with a foot, Alexander Madison with an illness, and these number of players have been limited. Jeff Gladney with a calf, Irv Smith Jr. with a back, Garrett Bradbury with an abdomen, Riley Reif with an ankle, DJ Wonnum with an ankle and back, and then Ezra Cleveland with an ankle. And then on the Bucs side, a little injury note on Chris Godwin. He had pins removed from his left index finger. So that's an injury he dealt with about a month and a half ago that made him miss a game. And then these 2 players haven't practiced. Jamal Dean with a groin, Mike Evans with a hamstring. And then these 3 players have been limited. Steve McClendon with a elbow, Jason Pierre-Paul with a knee, and Donovan Smith with an ankle. Starting with the Bucs, the Bucs side of the ball, their offense is going to be looking to, put things together. It's the Bucs are coming off a bye week. They have to figure out their identity still on offense. It seems like they can never find themselves. One week they look like world beaters. The next week they're inconsistent and they cannot find any type of way to keep on moving the chains to get the touchdown. So that's what I'm looking out of this Tampa team to start this week against the Minnesota defense. They got 4 weeks to figure it out. They still have to clinch a playoff spot, by the way, too, as well. And if they can figure it out and get on a hot streak, it's all about, the NFL playoffs, usually Super Bowl winners. It's all about getting things right at the right time at the back end of the year. And Tampa needs to start that this Sunday. They are going against a defense that's had some up and downs. Their defensive front, it's missing Danielle Hunter. Their big free agent signing opted out at the beginning of the year. So I think you can run on this defense. So I would expect, Ronald Jones to have a solid afternoon. I know we can never trust Bruce Arians when he says he's going to give the running back a lot of touches, but if he does give him those 20 touches like he was talking about in the past couple of weeks, I could see Ronald Jones going over 100 yards on this defense. And then the secondary, the young guys, Jeff Gladney, Cameron Dancer, they have really stepped up over the last few weeks, but they're still rookie cornerbacks. And then you got the veteran Tom Brady. So if they can get that running game going, I think that can open up things where they can go to the play action game, and you're going to see maybe Antonio Brown take off the top of the defense. We'll have to see if Mike Evans is going to fight through his injury, but they have plenty of weapons to spread the ball to in case they just need to sit out Mike Evans for the week. I think they're going to be able to move the ball quite often on this defense, but I think what this will come down to is if they're going to end up settling for field goals or if they're going to convert those drives into touchdowns. Splitting sides of the ball, Kirk Cousins and that Minnesota offense has been humming over the last couple months. They started 1-5, now they're 6-6. They're right now at that 7th seed. This is why this is a big matchup. They're the 7th seed. I think the Bucs are the 5th seed. So if the Vikings beat them, that they've got the head-to-head. So when it comes down to playoff seeding, maybe who gets in as a wild card, depending on what the other NFC teams do. So yeah, they're going to want to keep that offense keep on humming against this. This Bucs defense has been very confusing, right? Like everybody remembers after that Packers game, well, everybody wanted to anoint them the best defense ever. And then they have a couple letdowns against some good teams, a couple weeks against the Rams, for example. So they got a tough test this week. They got, Dalvin Cook, who, is in the running for a offensive player of the year. I think you could debate him among other people in the NFL right now for that award. Justin Jefferson is now making his strong case to be the offensive rookie of the year. And then Adam Thielen is just being Adam Thielen. He's just going out there and getting the job done. So, Carlton Davis is going to be tested. We'll have to see if Jamal Dean practices today. So Sean Murphy-Bunting will need to step up from the cornerback position. And then you got Antoine Winfield Jr. His dad used to play for Minnesota, so I'm sure he wants to make a play against the team that he grew up as a fan of. So it's going to be on this defense to force turnovers. If they can get the pressure on Kirk, as Kirk's playing a lot better, I'll give him that. But his just like most quarterbacks that with his similar playing style, if you get pressure on him, that's when those mistakes happen. So can Shaquille Barrett and JPP come off the edge and close down on him? I think Minnesota's going to have their opportunities to move the ball, but I think we're going to see a good Shaq and JPP game where they're getting after Kirk and ending some drives, potentially maybe forcing some turnovers. I do think this is going to be a back and forth game throughout the most of the game, but I think Tampa, they're going to find a way to pull away in the fourth quarter, grind out the clock, I think, on the ground with Ronald Jones. I think they're going to win by I'll say a 28-24 win for Tampa Bay. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into this next matchup. We got Arizona traveling out to New York to face the Giants. No news on either team. As far as the injury report on Arizona's side, Devondre Campbell, let me say this really quick. These 5 players have not practiced. Devondre Campbell with an ankle, DeAndre Hopkins with a neck and back, Jonathan Joseph with a neck, Jalen Thompson with an ankle, Isaiah Simmons with a neck and back, and then these falling players have been limited. Charles Washington with a groin, Rashad Lawrence with a calf, and Kenyon Drake with a hip. So they got some notable names on their injury report heading into this matchup. And then on the Giants side, Mondre Harper hasn't practiced. These 4 players have been limited. Daniel Jones with a hamstring. I know he's trying to it sounds like there's some optimism he will play. I think today's injury report will be very telling if he's going to play or not. Darnay Holmes with a knee, Blake Martinez with a back, and Matt Peart with an ankle. So starting with the Giants side of the ball, I think this definitely is going to come down to if Daniel Jones is going to play or not. I think Colt McCoy obviously proved he could be a great game manager, and as long as their defense plays like they did last week, he can lead the team to a victory if they're holding to what they held the Seahawks to 12 or 9 points. And I hope Daniel Jones plays, just because then we get to see 2 quarterbacks from last year's draft class go at it. But they're going against the Arizona defense that, they got some pieces here and there, but as I've been saying all year, they got some leaky holes on that defense where you're able to run on them, you're able to pass on them. if everything can be flowing right. So I think the Giants, their offensive line, as bad as it was in that first half, they have really came along on the second part of the year, and that's why we're seeing Wayne Gallman having a very solid performance last week and in the previous weeks. He's been able to run the rock behind that line, and then if whether it's Colt McCoy or Daniel Jones, if they can take advantage of that running game and just protect the ball, get the ball to Evan Ingram when you can, Sterling Shepard, maybe get a connection with Darius Slayton. I know he's kind of been quiet in the fantasy world in the last couple of weeks. I think they're going to be able to move the ball, but the offense is still, somewhat limited. So I think they're going to have stall opportunities. I think they're going to be end up settling for field goals, but I think they're going to put together at least 2 to 3 touchdown drives as well. And then you go the other side, Arizona. Man, talk about a team that's fallen off ever since the Hail Mary against the Bills team. They just seem to cannot get things together. They seem to be more inconsistent. I do point to it. I think it's just it was one of their Achilles heels. I kept on saying back in the offseason. I think the offensive line is really biting them in the ass right now. They can't get any type of running game going. Teams are kind of figuring out how to bottle up Kyle Murray and force him to pass instead of the run. Because of one thing I keep on saying too, when Kyle Murray's getting, 50 plus rushing yards a game, it's almost a guaranteed win for the Cardinals, and he's just not getting that type of performance anymore. I don't know if he's not looking to run, or they're just or defenses are just doing a great job at just making sure they fill any potential rushing lanes for Kyle Murray. And then on top of that, it's just nobody's really stepping up outside of a DeAndre Hopkins. And then DeAndre Hopkins is dealing with a neck and back injury, so he didn't practice this week. So we're going to have to see if he can give it a go this week. So, DeAndre's out. That really hurts him. But even if he plays, James Bradbury, just like he did to DK Metcalf, I'm not saying he shut down DK, but he limited DK last week. He is more than capable to limit a DeAndre Hopkins, especially a DeAndre Hopkins that's going to be, if he does play, he's going to be less than 100%. So can the other guys step up in the offense? I wonder if they can even run against this Giants defense with the way that Lawrence and Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams are playing this year. So I think they can bottle up that middle of the defense and then also destroy that pocket, and they can get after Kyler Murray. I see an up and down day for the Cardinals offense. Man, I do think this is going to be a close game, though. I think both teams will have a chance to win it in the fourth quarter. But I think the Giants might get out to a quick start because, again, I point this out every week, as my longtime listeners will know. Those East Coast teams that travel to the West Coast, they have a history of either struggling throughout the matchup or they get off to a slow start. Now, we have 2 previous examples with this Cardinals team. Earlier in the season, they traveled to Carolina for that 1 p.m. slot time, and they got beat up on by Carolina. I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, same slot time, they traveled to New England. Bill Belichick shut them down, and they end up the Patriots beat the Cardinals. So I could see there's history here where I don't know if it's Cliff Kingsbury, I don't know if it's their time management, but they have now a history this year where they cannot get off to a good start from the 1 p.m. slot time. So I think maybe the Giants catch them slipping early. Arizona tries to race back into the game in the fourth quarter and just fall flat short, just short of maybe pulling it off. I say the Giants win this game a 24-21 type of win. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the next matchup. We got KC traveling to Miami to face the Dolphins. And, man, talk about a difference in the injury reports. Chiefs, Damian Wilson has not practiced with a knee. All right, let's get going with the Dolphins injury report. This is like the worst time you could have this many players on an injury report when you're about to face the Kansas City Chiefs. But these 4 players have not practiced. Salvin Ahmed with a shoulder, Eric Flowers with an ankle, Landon Roberts with a chest, and Kyle Van Noy with a hip. And these number of players have been limited this week. Kayvon Frazier with a shoulder and ankle, Myles Gaskin with a knee, Jakeem Grant with a back, Xavier Howard with a shoulder, Solomon Kinley with a foot, Malcolm Perry with a chest, Adam Shaheen with a foot, Tua Tagovailoa with a thumb, Andrew Van Ginkle with a wrist and thumb, and then DeAndre Washington with a hamstring. So this team is entering this matchup against the best team in the AFC to try to keep their playoff hopes alive. Starting with Miami, Tua, he bounced back this week with his performance coming off his injury where he had to miss the Bengals matchup, and he showed some things. He's still got a lot to work on, but I just think that Miami offense, it's still limited. Like Myles Gaskin came back and he's kind of helped out the running back room, but outside Devontae Parker, they really only got like Jakeem Grant, that can maybe sometimes occasionally use his speed to get some touchdowns. Mike Gesicki has came along. He's starting to be more of a red zone threat with Tua, but they're going against a KC defense, that is, liable to giving up a good rushing attack. So can that offensive line figure out the ways to open up holes for Myles Gaskin, and can he take advantage of that? And then, how effective and efficient will Tua be on the day moving the ball? And will maybe a honey badger, how he is, can he catch the rookie slipping and get his hands on the ball? I think I see a rough afternoon for the Miami offense. Eric Flowers, he has turned around his career at the guard position. I'm not saying he's a all pro or pro bowler in my opinion, but he has been solid since he switched to the guard position. He looks like he might miss. And if he misses and he can't hold up in the interior of that defense, that's going to allow Chris Jones to eat up the middle and get after Tua and put pressure on the rookie. And if they can get pressure on a rookie, that can potentially lead to those sacks and turnovers. So I only really see Miami scoring maybe 2 touchdowns, honestly, on Sunday. And then you switch sides of the ball. This is one thing I'm kind of very looking forward to is this KC offense, though, against the defense. Because I think this is where if Miami were able to pull off this upset, it's going to be because of how great their defensive plays and how ready whatever scheme that Brian Flores and his coaching staff can come up with to somewhat how limit Patrick Mahomes. Xavier Howard's having a great year. He has 8 or 9 interceptions on the year. Nobody's really talking about that. They got Byron Jones. They got a solid set of corners. So I'm very curious how they're going to defend Tyreek Hill. But what's going to come down to is, the cog in the machine in that passing attack outside Mahomes, is Travis Kelce. Who can slow him down? He's having a career year. I think he's 200 something yards away already. There's 5 games left, and 4 games left. He's 200 something yards away from breaking George Kittle's tight end receiving yards record that he just set last year. So I'm not sure I'm not sure how they're going to defend him. It's just the KC offense, man. You pick your poison how you're going to get beat. But if there's some way you can limit that connection between Kelce and Mahomes, I think there's a way you can maybe throw them off their game for maybe a quarter or two.
And I looked it up for you, but it's 264 he needs.
264. Yeah, he's definitely. I think he's going to get that easily. Easily get that. So yeah, I think. Oh yeah, and that's I'm sorry, Calio Van Noy. That's the name I was looking for. He hasn't practiced this week, and he's coming off a good game where he just had 3 sacks. So I mean, if he has to miss this lineup, he's kind of that versatile chess piece. He can maybe help out in coverage too, like in underneath coverage on Kelce. So. Man, I don't know. I think KC is hard to predict against KC, right? I think they're gonna effectively move the ball and be efficient and find ways to score at least 3+ touchdowns on the day. I'm just very curious to see if maybe Brian Flores has something cooking and he has a way to, he comes up with a way to slow them down. I just think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to Miami's offense is not as efficient as it needs to be a playoff team. And they got a rough stretch of games over these next 4 weeks, starting with this one. So, maybe they still can get in the playoffs, but I think this is where they're going to take their first L and they're going to possibly be looking on the outside in. Come by the end of this month. I think KC does handle business. They should be able to win by a touchdown, even if not even more, in my opinion. I don't think that Miami offense is capable of keeping up with a hot KC offense. So I'll say KC wins like a 31-24.
I'll tell you what, though, if Miami gets it done, you can already go on and give my boy Flores Coach of the Year. If Miami wins this game, he's Coach of the Year to me. No questions asked.
Yeah, because I mean, if they win this game, that definitely propels them on a great chance of making the playoffs. And I mean, shoot, when we did the happy hour awards earlier this year, I gave him the my midseason coach of the year, and they were only what 5-4 or something like that, or 4-3 at the time. So yeah, I could get behind that. Especially if he takes this team to the playoffs, he definitely deserves it. I don't even care if it's a wild card team. He definitely deserves the award. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get into this next matchup. We got Tennessee traveling to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars. Now I got a couple news notes on both teams I thought were notable. I'll put in the show today. Tennessee Titans, a first round pick, Isaiah Wilson, he was placed on the reserve non football illness list. He had to serve a 1-game suspension last week for violating team rules. He got some trouble earlier this season, was caught at a party like during the pandemic when you're not supposed to be out and about. He's just been dealing with a lot of rough stuff as a rookie. John Robinson, their GM, said this yesterday. Currently, he is dealing with some personal issues, which will take some time for him to work through. We will continue to help and support him with the hope that he can ultimately rejoin the team. I'm not sure what's going on. Obviously, they're not letting too much out, but it sounds like it could be some mental health stuff. So I just want to say I hope Isaiah Wilson figures out whatever he's got going on personally, and he can get him and his football career back on track. As I know Tennessee definitely got to be hurting because, especially with Taylor Lewan, his season was over a month or so ago. They definitely need Wilson on that offensive line, especially because their tackles are always dealing with an injury. For example, spoiler alert, Dennis Kelly hasn't practiced this week with a knee injury. So they're definitely missing their rookie lineman that they drafted that they would hope, be part of this playoff push at the end of the year. And then going to the Jaguars side, this was I didn't. This came out like 2 days ago, and I'm surprised this didn't get more of a with how much national media used to love. I say, and the key word used to love talking about Gardner Minshew back in the summer. It seems like even the national media has stayed away from this because I didn't hear about this at all until when I was writing my script last night. But here's what happened. Gardner Minshew, he said that he came out earlier in this week and said that he pleaded with head coach Doug Marrone to put him back on the field after he was medically cleared from a thumb injury late last month. Minshew said, "It's so frustrating. I pretty much went and begged before the Cleveland game to be able to play. It sucks, there's no way around it. I want to be out there. I want to be helping our team. But if helping our team is me being the best number 2 I can be, then that's what I've got to do right now." That just shows that I think, I was never, I always said Gardner Minshew is going to be the Ryan Fitzpatrick of this generation. And it's kind of looking out like that. Like, yeah, sure, he can be fun. He can go out there and win you games. He could definitely be a fun quarterback to watch. But at the end of the day, there's never going to be an organization that wants to commit to him. So I think as soon as whether it was ownership or the coach, had that opportunity to get away from him, it seems like they took and ran with it. They want a top 5 pick, and they're hoping they can either land a Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, one of these top quarterbacks in the draft class. So it does look like Gardner's time as a starter has came to an end, at least in Jacksonville. I'm sure maybe he'll pop up at some point.
I just want to interject here. I want all the shares of Gardner Minshew as the backup in Kansas City. That swag ass team with Gardner just being there, give me all of that, man. That's what I want to happen.
Yeah, I think so. He was I want to say a 5th or 6th round pick. So I think those are 3-year contracts. This is his 2nd year. So I think he'll be able to be a free agent after next year. I think that I could be wrong on that. I'm going to go ahead and dive into the injury report. So let's start with Tennessee. These 3 players have a practice. As I said, Dennis Kelly with a knee. Now, A.J. Brown didn't practice yesterday. Now, this is something notable. As I've been saying, he's been taking Thursdays off all year round. But every time he took a Thursday off, it was listed with a knee injury. This one was listed with an ankle injury. Now, I suppose that was the little scare he had on Sunday. But he ended up playing the whole game. So I want to say it's a maintenance day, but do watch out for that. Watch out for today's report especially if you're like me and you own him in a big money fantasy football league in the playoffs. We got Breon Borders though, also had some practice with a hip, and then Dory Jackson's been limited with a knee, and then Derek Robertson has been limited with a hip. I'm gonna switch over to Jacksonville's injury report. We got Brandon Linder. Has not practiced with an ankle injury, and then these number of players have been limited for Jacksonville. Tyler Eifert with a shoulder, Dakota Allen with a hamstring, Kamalea Correa with a hamstring, Nathan Cottrell with a knee, Sidney Jones with an Achilles, Greg Maben with a hamstring, James Robinson with a knee, and Laviska Shenault with a thumb. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get into the matchup really quick because that news section definitely took up some time there. Jacksonville, I guess Mike Lennon's moving the ball for them? Question mark. I know some people are kind of, I guess, somewhat impressed with how he's played. Not me at all. He still fails to get the ball to DJ Chark on a consistent rate. He targets him. He just can't deliver the throws. So, but they still got James Robinson who's able to move the rock. He's been an impressive undrafted rookie. He's probably going to have the best, depending on how the back end of his year goes. He's currently projected to have the best performance by an undrafted rookie running back in his first season. So, they are going against a Tennessee defense, though. We just saw Cleveland light them up, and that Tennessee defense. I said it last week when I did the game preview. It's not that great. Breon Borders, he hasn't practiced this week with a hip injury, so that's a cornerback position. But it does sound like they're going to get a Dory Jackson back. So and these Titans Jaguars games are always weird. These two teams always, no matter how the other team is doing, they seem to always play each other tough. So I actually think the Jacksonville is going to have their opportunities on some drives where James Robinson's getting going. Maybe Mike Lennon is connecting with his receivers, Laviska Shenault, DJ Chark, everybody. Who's the Colin Johnson? I was trying to think of that rookie wide receiver that's kind of coming along over the last couple of weeks. So maybe I think there's going to be some drives where they move the ball and they find the end zone at least twice on Sunday and make things interesting. But that is, at the end of the day, it's the Jaguars offense. So I think there's going to end up being sacks. I think Jeffrey Simmons is going to bottle up the middle of the defense, which maybe can open up things for Harold Landry. Maybe they use Rashaan Evans as they have on some blitz packages, and they can get after Mike Lennon to make him force those throws, which leads to interceptions. I'd like to see maybe a Kevin Byard. We haven't heard that name a lot this year. Their premium safety. So we'll see if he can maybe step up on Sunday. And then you go back to the other side of the ball, the Titans offense. They started off so slow last week, and then they kind of got going towards the back end of the game, but it was way too late. Cleveland was up way too much for them to complete the comeback. But I think they can maybe get things back going against this Jaguars defense. This Jaguars defense basically right now, I think I've said it for 3 weeks now, they're basically facing, practice squad, undrafted free agent cornerbacks at this moment. So I think that sets up nicely for Ryan Tannehill to have a solid day. I think assuming A.J. Brown does play, I think he's going to have a solid day. Corey Davis is going to have a good day, Janu Smith. And then, Derrick Henry, it's his season. It's December, so I think he's going to end up breaking off some chunk runs and having a good day. I think I think the Jaguars maybe keep it close for 3 quarters, and then Derrick Henry takes over in that 4th quarter, and Tennessee pulls away. I think their offense is just going to be way more efficient than the Jaguars' offense. I think Tennessee should be able to win because it's a divisional matchup. Honestly, they should be able to handle this team and win by 10 plus points. With it being a divisional matchup, I say they win by 7. They win like a 31-24 type of win. And then, man, I don't even know who's going to watch this game outside of Cowboys fans. I don't even know if Bengals fans watch their games anymore after Burrow got hurt. We got Dallas traveling to Cincinnati. Let's start with these injury reports. On the Bengals side, Brandon Wilson hasn't practiced with a groin, and then Xavier Williams has been limited with a back, as well as T. Higgins with a hamstring. And then let's go to the Cowboys injury report. Donovan Wilson hasn't practiced with a groin. Cam Irving hasn't practiced with a knee. And then these three players have been limited. Alden Smith with a foot, Ezekiel Elliott with a calf bruise, and Anthony Brown with a ribs. And this does set up to we got I I might have missed one earlier, guys. Don't blame me, but this is one of the there's like 4 or 5 revenge games this weekend, and this is the Red Rifle revenge game for Andy Dalton, going against his former team that moved on from him last year. So he's going to want to get his revenge against Cincinnati, and I think he's going to be able to have a pretty solid performance. That Bengals defense, they got Jesse Bates, who's a very solid safety, William Jackson, a very good cornerback, and they got some nice pieces across the defense, but they're at least a year or two more, probably about 4 or 5 other guys away. And there's guys that are hurt too, getting those guys back from being a solid defense. So I think Andy Dalton's going to be able to pick apart this defense with Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper. And then the Bengals are one of the defenses that struggle to run. I'm going to assume Ezekiel Elliott plays through his calf bruise. And even if it's Tony Pollard, no matter who's the running back, even with the banged up in offensive line of the Cowboys, I think this sets up for a good running day for Dallas. So I think Ezekiel Elliott, I think this could be one of those classic Ezekiel Elliott games. This is in Ohio. He's an Ohio State running back, so he's going to want to remind his Ohio State fans the running back he used to be. Now that I'm talking about it, this is kind of smelling like a good Ezekiel Elliott game that might end up making the fantasy football owners happy that they actually drafted him, because he's been pretty much upsetting that group all season long. But yeah, I think Dallas, they should be able to score at least 3+ touchdowns on this defense. They got too much talent on that offense. And they're just going against a defense that's very limited. So I think they could take advantage of that. Then you go on the opposite side of the ball, that the Bengals offense, it just really hasn't been the same, since Joe Burrow, his season ended. But maybe they can get some things going against this Dallas defense. The Dallas defense is another team that struggles to stop the run. But Joe Mixon's he has yet to return. So can Giovanni Bernard maybe take advantage of that opportunity? Their defense has struggled to stop the pass. So maybe we see a good T. Higgins game, Tyler Boyd, maybe even AJ Green shows up a couple times. But they just placed Jonah Williams, their best offensive lineman, on IR. And so they already don't have an offensive line, and their best lineman's out of the game. So I think DeMarcus Lawrence is going to have a couple sacks in this game. I think they're going to be able to actually kind of contain any type of rushing attack. And I think if Dallas can open up the game to like 14, if they can open up to a 2-score lead to start the game and force the Bengals to be more one-dimensional, I think that sets up for a very great day for that Cowboys defense, where they can just pin back their ears, get after Brandon Allen, make him force throws, which could potentially lead to some interceptions. So I do actually think Dallas is going to be able to handle this. I think they're going to put together a good performance on Sunday. They should be able to honestly win by. I feel like they should. It's weird saying this because they only have 3 wins, but I think they should be able to beat this team. Brandon Allen, I'd feel so much different if this was Joe Burrow, but Brandon Allen led Bengals team. They should be able to beat them by 10 points. I think they should be able to win like a 28-17 type of win on Sunday for Dallas. And then let's go ahead and get into this next matchup. We got Houston traveling to Chicago to face the Bears. And this is, I believe if I remember right, this is Deshaun Watson's first game against the Bears in his career. Obviously, we all know the story. Mitch Trubisky, the first quarterback in that draft class, taken by the Bears over Deshaun Watson. So I'm sure Deshaun Watson definitely wants to have a great performance on Sunday. Before I get into the game preview, let's go ahead and get into the injury reports. I'll start with Houston. Pharaoh Brown hasn't practiced this week with a concussion. And these number of players have been limited for Houston. Brandon Cooks with a foot and neck. Keon Crossan with a foot. Philip Gaines with a shoulder. Duke Johnson with an elbow. And then John Reed with a neck. And then let's get into the Chicago injury report. Khalil Mack hasn't practiced with a shoulder, as well as Buster Screen with a concussion, and James Valters with a knee. And then these three players have been limited for Chicago. J.P. Holtz with a shoulder and knee, Charles Leno Jr. with a toe, and Allen Robinson with a knee. This is basically two non-playoff teams that are going to be battling on Sunday. We probably won't see much of it on Red Zone outside of Deshaun Watson, I think, making some explosive plays with his arm and leg. But yeah, let's go ahead and start with the Bears offense, though. Mitch Trubisky, he definitely has not bounced back after his benching. He's just proven that he is who he is, a quarterback that is probably likely, maybe we'll see if he's even likely a career backup. I don't even know if you could trust him as a backup at this point, but they are going against the Texans defense that is suspect. Not only let up passing game, big passing plays, so maybe Allen Robinson can get things going. Anthony Miller as well. So maybe there's a slight chance they could have a good game through the air. But I think if they're going to find a way to win this game, I think they can go to David Montgomery. I have definitely been one of those guys that have changed his tune on David Montgomery. But I think it's more. It's not like he's playing better. I think he has a little bit more juice than normal, but it's just he's been taking advantage of the right matchups. And again, this is a matchup against a Texans defense that's one of the worst bottom five defense against stopping the run. So if the Bears offensive line can somewhat dominate on Sunday, I think they're going to be able to, get some, 4 or 5 plus yard runs out of David Montgomery. And then all Mitch Trubisky needs to do is convert third and shorts. So that's what it's probably going to come down to, is if he can convert those first downs on anytime they get to those situations. So with him being Mr. Trubisky, I think you can't really lean on that. So I think the Bears offense, I think they're going to be up and down. I think a couple drives, or there are going to be multiple drives in that game, where he's going to look good, or where that offense is going to look good. It's going to look efficient. It's going to find the end zone, and then you're going to see other plays where either Mitch just throws an errant pass and gets an interception. J.J. Watt comes off the edge and sacks him for a fumble, something like that, because that's just what the Bears offense has been all year round. And then you go to the Houston side. Deshaun Watson is just playing like a top 2, top 3 quarterback right now. I know the Bears defense is the Bears defense, but man, over the last few weeks, it hasn't looked the same. Whether it's because they've been dealing with injuries, whether it's just because they just have given up because they know that offense cannot carry them, so they don't see what's the point of fighting for it. But they, at the end of the day, they're going against a up and down offensive line. And if Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn can take advantage of that, I could see them getting after Deshaun Watson. But that's the thing with Deshaun Watson. He's probably the best quarterback at getting away from potential sack opportunities and shaking off the sacks, extending plays, and then he has the arm to connect on those any plays that he's able to elude the rush and make a connection down the field to like Brandon Cooks. We saw him take advantage of even like guys like Kiki Kuti and Jacob Hansen. Like, it doesn't matter who's out there at the wide receiver position. Deshaun Watson can take advantage of it. David Johnson, he's back as well, so maybe they can try to get the running game to combine with it. I think the Texans offense will be efficient enough. I trust the Texans offense in this matchup way better than the Chicago offense. So I think they end up finding a way to win. Houston does, and they win like a 24-17 type of win on Sunday. And I'm going to go ahead and keep it moving, but I do need a little coffee break here, so just give me one quick second, guys.
I just was enjoying all that Deshaun Watson love. That's my dude. Love that guy so much.
It sucks he's in the Colts division.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I
does
know about it. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep it moving. This is the last 1 p.m. game, guys. We have the Denver Broncos traveling out to Carolina to face the Panthers. One news, though, A.J. Bouye, the Broncos cornerback, he was suspended for 6 games. Now, if you guys remember from last week, Bradley Roby and Will Fuller were also suspended for 6 games for PED use. Now, this is all connected to the same medical professional that might have lied to the players. I believe it was Benjamin Albright when he reported this. It sounds like there could be a potential lawsuit down the line. We'll have to see. You never know. They could just be saying that but I always I try to trust, the players more times than not. There are people out in this world that will try to get over somebody that has money. And maybe this medical professional saw some athletes that he could offer them some type of new product, and he didn't tell them about whatever substance was in that product that they took. So it does suck to see these guys' paychecks be affected because somebody might sounds like some guy lied to them about whatever he gave them to enhance their performance. But whatever he gave them, it was working for Will Fuller because he was staying healthy all year. So let me go ahead and get into this matchup, though. I'm going to go over these injury reports. Graham Glasgow has not practiced for Denver with an ankle injury. Trey Marshall and Tyree Cleveland have both been limited. Marshall with a shin, Cleveland with an illness. On this Carolina side, it sounded like our boy CMC was going to return. Unfortunately, it sounds like he tweaked an injury last week and it flared up this week. So CMC is not expected to return this week. I know that's got to kill any of his fantasy football owners that made it to the playoffs. And then these three players haven't practiced for Carolina. Dennis Daly with a concussion, Marquise Haynes with an illness, and then Chris Orr with an illness. Now, let's start with the Carolina offensive side of the ball. At least we do know, even if they don't have CMC, Mike Davis has been good for them out of the running back position. And they're going against a Denver defense that's been super banged up all year. Now they're missing AJ Bouye. He's got suspended for 6 games. Now they did play against Patrick Mahomes pretty solid last week, but again, that is a divisional matchup. It's a player they see twice a year at this point. So I think Carolina is going to have their moments against the Denver defense. I think Mike Davis will be able to move the ball on the ground, and then I think Teddy Bridgewater he's going to have one of his good performances. I think he's going to be able to connect with Robbie Anderson on some balls. We'll see how DJ Moore, how they use him. And actually, I think DJ Moore might be on I think there's a number of Carolina players that tested positive last week. So we'll have to see who's available because I think Curtis Samuel is also a close contact, but I think he should be able to play. I forgot to put that on my notes. I do apologize about that. But regardless of who's on the field, I just think this Carolina offense is going to find ways to move the ball. And then this is going to be one of those games where that offense, if they're going to win, it's going to be dependent on them not settling for field goals and converting those drives into touchdowns. And then you switch sides of the ball. Man, Denver's offense is just so hit and miss, especially underneath Drew Lock. One quarter he looks like he could be the man, and then the next quarter it's like, why is this guy on the football field with how many errant throws he can do? But they are going against a young, hungry Carolina defense that is suspect for allowing a good rushing performance. So maybe Melvin Gordon can continue what he did last week and run the ball pretty well against this Carolina defense. And if he could be efficient on the ground, as well as Philip Lindsay too, that can open up maybe the play action where they can take some deep shots to maybe like a Jerry Jeudy, a Tim Patrick, and a KJ Hamler. But as we see every game with a Drew Lock-led offense, it's just inconsistent. So I see some inconsistencies out of this offense. I think there's some stall opportunities. I think we're going to see Brian Burns come off the edge and get a couple sacks. Graham Glasgow hasn't practiced this week, so if he can't go at the guard position, I could see Derek Brown, their first-round pick, eating up the interior of that offensive line. And maybe our boy Jeremy Chin is flying all over the field and making plays for the Carolina defense. Now, I do view these teams, because of the injuries, people have tested positive and all that stuff that both teams are kind of dealing with. I feel like they're kind of somewhat even. They're going to be going back and forth. I guess you can also point out too, Denver is kind of I know they're technically Mountain West, but they're kind of that West Coast team coming out to that 1 p.m. slot time as well. So I could see them maybe getting off to a slow start. I think, and I don't know. I trust Matt Rule over Vic Fangio as a head coach as well. So I think he's going to have his team ready to rock on Sunday. I think Carolina does win a close matchup. I see them winning like a 28-24 type of win.
I don't know if they're still on it or not, but I did, since you've been online, Shefty tweeted that there has been no players or coaches test positive today. Haven't heard that in a long time.
Right. Well, that's good. Yeah, let's just get through the season. Especially especially at this point. I had thought about it the other day. I'm like, man, it would be the worst timing if they like something bad happens during the fantasy football playoffs because everybody's like, oh, we finally got to this point. A lot of money on the line. So hopefully, nothing flares up across the NFL with the pandemic-related issues, and we can all get past this and sooner than later try to get things back to as close to normal as possible. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get into this matchup. Now I'm switching to the 4 p.m. games. We got the New York Jets traveling out to Seattle to face the Seahawks. Little news note on New York: it is official. I know me and Rob talked about it yesterday. In case anybody owns him in fantasy football, Denzel Mims he's out. He had to go deal with a family emergency, so he's not going to be playing in this matchup. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get into New York's God, can't talk injury report. These looks like 5 players haven't practiced. Ashton Davis with a foot, Bennett Jackson with a hamstring, Jordan Jenkins with a shoulder, Greg Von Rotten with a toe, and Frank Gore with a concussion. These 3 players have been limited. Pat Elflein with a shoulder and ankle, Rashad Perryman with a shoulder, and Jamison Crowder with a calf. And then you move to Seattle's injury report. Man, they are super banged up, but they might be facing the right team to be banged up against. But these number of players haven't practiced. Travis Homer with a knee, Carlos Dunlap with a foot, Jamarco Jones with a groin, Cedric Abuye with a calf, Ryan Neal with a hip, Phil Haynes with a hip, and Dwayne Brown with a knee. And these 4 players have been limited for Seattle. Brandon Shell with an ankle, Kyle Fuller with an ankle, Chris Carson with a foot, and Carlos Hyde with a toe. I'm probably going to be quick with this. I mean, obviously, I say this every week. New York's just a bad, awfully ran team. They had I feel like their one opportunity to get their win last week against the Raiders, and Greg Williams called the worst freaking call you can think of at the time, and it allowed Henry Ruggs to catch that game-winning touchdown. Honestly, I'm with the boat of the people that Greg Williams knew that whole coaching staff was going to get fired. He saw it's Christmas time of the year, and he just wanted out so he can start his vacation early. So I think that's why he called that cover 0, and he was like, "Hey, we win, we win. If they get us, they get us." So that led to his firing this week. And man, I don't think I don't even really think the coaching staff has no reason to, coach to necessarily to tank. And the players don't play to tank. But when they play that hard to get a win against a team that potentially could make it in the playoffs and they lose like that, I just feel like that's going to carry over into this week. And they're just going to be, I don't want to say unmotivated, but just devastated. And I think it's going to affect their play on Sunday. And this sets up nicely for a bounce back performance for Seattle on both sides of the ball. Starting with that side of the ball, Russell Wilson, I don't know, he wasn't that great last week. I know they were playing a pretty stout defense against the Giants, but they're going to be playing a pretty loose defense against the Jets. So I think DK Metcalf could have a good game. Tyler Lockett's going to have a good game. And I think they're going to try to maybe get things going on the ground with Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde. I see this being an efficient game from Seattle, and they should be able to score 3 to 4 touchdowns against New York. On the opposite side of the ball, Sam Darnold is trying to do his best to put together any type of tape that he can either sell the Jets on or a potential team to trade for him on. But I'll say this: he is going against a Seattle's defense that's been, they started playing good for a month stretch, and then they went like last week they had a down performance. But this is Jamal Adams' revenge game. He's going against his former team. He's going to want to ball out. They're going to use on some blitz packages, and I could just see him, going through that line and taking the ball from Sam Darnold and running for a touchdown. So I definitely think this is a get-right type of game for that Seattle defense, for them to kind of work on some kinks and see if that works out for them. And I just don't see New York really moving the ball that much. Now, maybe they get a couple touchdown drives, but I just think they're not capable of keeping up with the Seattle offense on Sunday. Seattle should be able to win this game by 10 plus points, if not 14 plus points on Sunday. I think Seattle wins like a 35-17 type of win on Sunday. Now we got a big playoff implication type of matchup coming up. We got the Indianapolis Colts traveling to Las Vegas to face the Raiders. There is no news note on either team. Let's go with the Colts side of the ball. Rigoberto Sanchez has yet to return to practice. As I brought up last week, he had to have surgery to remove a cancerous tumor from his body. But it is a good sign that the team didn't place him on IR since he's still technically on the active roster. So it sounds like once he's fully healthy, he might be back sooner than later this season. These 5 players have been limited for Indianapolis. This is a big one. Anthony Costanzo, he has been limited with a knee. So if he's able to make it back this week, that will definitely help out their offense. Tyquan Lewis with a hip, Kari Willis with a back and quad, Bobby Okereke with an ankle, and Kamiko Ture with an ankle. And then you go to the Vegas side. These 2 players haven't practiced. Damon Arnett with a concussion in neck, Jeff Heath with a concussion, and then these number of players have been limited. Jonathan Abram with a knee, Rodney Hudson with a knee, Maurice Hurst with a groin, Gabe Jackson with a knee, Josh Jacobs with an ankle, Isaiah Johnson with a groin, Zay Jones with an ankle, Sam Young with a knee, and Trent Sieg with a calf. And yeah, this is a big game for both teams because as of right now, the Titans have the control of the AFC South lead. So Colts are a wild card team. The Raiders are in the hunt for a wild card team. So, if the Colts had to set, because obviously the Chiefs are winning the AFC West. So if you come out of the AFC West and you're not the Chiefs, you're trying to fight for a wild card. So obviously the Colts, if they lose the AFC South, they need this game to have the wild card advantage over the Las Vegas Raiders. And the same thing with the Raiders. They need this game to have the wild card advantage over the Colts if the Colts don't win the AFC South. So starting with the Vegas side of the ball, it's going to be crucial that they get Josh Jacobs back, in my opinion. Devontae Booker, he's a solid backup, but he's no Josh Jacobs. So if they can get Josh Jacobs back and he can be some type of resemblance of himself, that should be able to help out their offense. Now, obviously, their offensive line's been playing a lot better, but this is where the matchup's going to be won. It's going to be that offensive line against this defensive front. The Colts defensive front, DeVorest Buckner and Grover Stewart, they just eat up the interior of the offensive lines, which allows Anthony Walker Jr., Darius Leonard. We'll see if Bobby Okereke makes it back this week, and that allows them to kind of just fly over the field and bottle up the running game. So I think that's where we're going to see how this type of matchup is won between these two units is in the trenches. And then will Derek Carr take any big time shots to Henry Ruggs? Because, Colts can be suspect of letting up big chunk plays through the air. But I think it's going to be one in the trenches. And then also on the Colts side of the ball, they need like Justin Houston, a Kamiko Ture, Alquak Dean Mohammed. They need somebody to get that pressure on Derek Carr, because Derek Carr is, just like I mentioned earlier in this show about Kirk Cousins. If you get that pressure on him, he's gonna rush his decision making, and when he rushes his decision making, that's when we see the bad Derek Carr. When he has the fumbles, when he has the interceptions. So if the Colts defense can get on him, that can definitely happen. Now, this Colts defense, obviously, it's one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. But, John Gruden, he's one hell of a play caller. So I think he will be able to maybe scheme ways to get Darren Waller open a couple times, Henry Ruggs. And they're going to be able to get, 2 to 3 touchdowns on the day. And then you go to the Colts side of the ball. It seems like they're somewhat finding themselves as we get back to the back end of the season. Obviously, if they get Anthony Costanzo back, that's going to help out the offensive line. Jonathan Taylor has been playing a lot better over the last couple weeks. And then Naheem Hines is being effective out of the backfield as a pass catcher. We're seeing T.Y. Hilton looking like T.Y. Hilton. Michael Pittman has been making some contributions. And then it just seems like the 3 tight ends kind of rotate on who has their week. And I think as long as Anthony Costanzo is back, I think they're going to actually move the ball pretty efficiently against the Raiders defense. The Raiders defense is hit and miss. One drive they look great, and then the next drive they're just allowing easy, chunk plays through the ground in the air. And Philip Rivers has always kind of been a thorn in the Raiders' history with his matchups. So he knows that team pretty well. So I think the Colts offense is going to be able to move the ball pretty, like I already mentioned, pretty efficiently on Sunday, and they should also be able to score those 2 to 3 plus touchdowns. I think this is a playoff atmosphere type of matchup. I could see it coming down to who has the ball last to kick the field goal for the win. The Colts are on the road. Now, one thing I will point out to you, I don't have the number in front of me, but I know it's pretty bad. I forgot what game. I forgot what team I could point to it this year that it happened to, but teams that typically win with walk-off touchdowns, like the Raiders did against the Jets, they lose the next week. And sometimes it's really bad. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's like they're going to be a letdown performance by the Raiders. But for example, I know I cannot remember what team this happened to earlier in this year when they had a walk-off touchdown and then they lost to the Vikings this week. But speaking of the Vikings, remember the Stephon Diggs, Minneapolis Miracle, walk-off touchdown. Next week they got slaughtered by the Eagles. It's weird when teams get walk-off touchdowns for whatever reason they lose the next week. Am I bringing that up because I'm a Colts fan? Maybe. But yeah, I do think this is going to be a close game. I think it does come down to who has the ball last and can kick a field goal. As always, guys, I'm going to lean towards the Colts. Colts win I'll say like a 27-24 type of win for Indianapolis. And then I'm going to move into the next matchup. We do got the New Orleans Saints heading to Philadelphia to face the Eagles. As we all know, Jalen Hurts has been named the starter of the Philadelphia offense now going forward, and he's got a very tough matchup going against this Saints defense. But let's go ahead and go run through the injury report on both sides. New Orleans, 2 players haven't practiced. Patrick Robinson with a hamstring, David Onyemata with an illness. And then these number of players have been limited. Malcolm Brown with a shoulder, Shai Tuttle with a wrist, Deontay Harris with a neck, Ryan Ramczyk with an elbow, Janoris Jenkins with a knee, Michael Thomas with an ankle, and Latavius Murray with a knee. And then on the Philly side, these 4 players haven't practiced. TJ Edwards with a hamstring, Rudy Ford with a hamstring, Michael Jacquet with a hamstring, and Jason Peters with a toe. And then these 2 players have been limited. Darius Slay with a knee, and then Derek Barnett with a pelvis. Starting on the Philly side of the ball, I'm very interested to see how this offense is going to look. Are they going to run it similar to with how they did with Carson Wentz? Are they going to maybe change more things up, maybe more kind of RPO action with a Jalen Hurts at the quarterback position, try to use his rushing ability to their advantage? But they are going against a very stout New Orleans defense. I say it every week on this show on Fantasy Voyage, that defense hasn't allowed a single 100-yard rusher in over 55 games, almost 60 games at this point. So I don't expect a great game out of Miles Sanders in that running back group, even Jalen Hurts with his legs. That offensive line for Philadelphia, it's a hodgepodge offensive line going against one of the better defensive fronts in the NFL. And I think Cameron Jordan is going to get after Jalen Hurts all day and get sacks and force him into errant throws, which could potentially lead to those interceptions. I really don't expect much out of this Philadelphia offense. Maybe they can catch the New Orleans defense slipping because, this is a Jalen Hurts first start. Maybe they can come up with some packages, some plays that New Orleans is not prepared for, which could lead to some maybe chunk plays, maybe even a couple touchdowns. But I think the Philadelphia offense is going to struggle for the majority of the afternoon against New Orleans. And then on the opposite side of the ball, with Taysom Hill is expected to still be the starting quarterback. It sounds like Drew Brees at the earliest may return next week. And I think it's the right call. I think they should be able to move the ball against this Philadelphia defense. I mean, they still got a strong defensive front, but New Orleans has one of the better offensive line units in the NFL. So I think they should be able to, attack this offense with their rushing attack with, Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, using Taysom Hill's rushing ability. And they're just going to keep on using, the ground at 3 to 4 touchdowns and just try to control the clock and get out of the game healthy. I think New Orleans should be able to win by a touchdown plus. I think they win like a 28-21. I don't even know. Yeah, can Philadelphia score 21 points with Hurts? Maybe like a 24-17 type of win for the Saints. And then is this the last? No, I think there's one more. I gotta talk. Yeah, okay. So this is not the last 4 p.m. matchup. Okay, so this one we got Atlanta heading to LA to face the Chargers. There is no news note on either team. Let's go in the injury report. It literally came out this morning for any owners of Julio Jones. It came out this morning right before we went live. Julio Jones has been ruled out with a hamstring injury. These two players haven't practiced this week. Ricardo Allen with a concussion and James Carpenter with a groin. And then these number of players have been limited for for Atlanta. Todd Gurley with a knee, Keanu Neal with a knee, Dante Fowler with a hamstring, Ito Smith with an ankle, Boy Oluwakan with a neck, Hayden Hurst with an ankle. I'm going to definitely butcher this. Jacob Tuati Mariner with a neck, Grady Jarrett with a groin, Sterling Hoffreichter with a hamstring, and then on LA side, Tremaine Pope hasn't practiced with a neck, and these 4 players have been limited. Chris Harris Jr. with a foot, Joshua Kelly with a foot, Denzel Perryman with a back, and then Joe Reed with a ribs injury. Yeah, we got 2 teams, non-playoff teams, battling here on Sunday, so we'll see how this one goes. I know Raheem Morris is definitely making a plausible case for maybe, if not Atlanta, but other teams to potentially interview him for head coaching opportunities. He's done a pretty solid job, at least at, it's not like they're world beaters, but the team has been competitive ever since he took over the job. But I'm not sure it's going to be able to play out now that we know Julio Jones is out on Sunday. But let's start with LA, though. Their offense was as bad as it can get last week against New England. But I think this is a perfect game to get Justin Herbert and that whole unit back on track to what we have seen out of them this year. Atlanta's defense struggles to stop wide receivers and quarterbacks. They pretty much struggle to stop everything. So I think we're going to see like a classic Austin Eckler day. I think he's going to go like a $150 total scrimmage yards and maybe a touchdown or 2. I think Justin Herbert's going to pick apart the defense with his arm. Keenan Allen's going to have a good day. Hunter Henry, Mike Williams. I think this is going to be a good overall day, bounce back performance by that offensive unit. And I think they're going to put up, 3 to 4 touchdowns on Atlanta's defense. Now, Atlanta, though, they're more than capable of keeping up with this Chargers offense. But, with Julio Jones being out, anytime we have ever seen Julio Jones out of the lineup, that Matt Ryan and that offense it always struggles to find any type of consistency. Todd Gurley has really kind of fallen off towards the back end of the year. He's on the injury report. Hayden Hurst is dealing with an ankle injury. So all they really have is Calvin Ridley at this point. And then they are going against, I think they can move the ball against the Chargers defense, but at the end of the day, they're going against, Joey Bosa that can definitely eat up that offensive line, especially with Tillery in the middle and Uchenna Nwosu on the opposite side of them. So I think Matt Ryan's going to get harassed all day by that defensive front. Kenneth Murray's starting to make some more plays as a rookie in the back end of the year. And they still got Chris Harris Jr., Casey Hayward in the back end of the defense too, Nasir Adderley. So I think this defense might sneakily be able to, create some turnovers on the day. I could definitely see this being in a shootout if everything bounces Atlanta's way on the offensive side of the ball. But that was with me assuming that Julio was going to play this week. With Julio being out, I'm seeing some inconsistencies with this Atlanta deep offense. So that's going to help Chargers find a way to win on Sunday. I think the Chargers do win. I think it would be closer if Julio played. So I think maybe Chargers find a way to win by like 4 or 5 points. They win like a 31-27 type of win for LA. And then we're going to go ahead and get into this next matchup. This one is the last 4 p.m. matchup. on the day. We do got Green Bay traveling to Detroit to face the Lions. Let's look at the Packers injury report. These two players haven't practiced. Mercedes Lewis with a knee, Jay Sternberger with a concussion, and then you take a look at the Green Bay limited players. Kevin King with Achilles and groin, Alan Lazard with a core, Lucas Patrick with a toe, J.K. Scott with a quadricep, Vernon Scott with a quadricep, Equinemius St. Brown with a knee and concussion, Simon Stepaniak with a knee, Rick Wagner with a knee, and Malik Taylor with a hamstring. And then on the Detroit side of the ball, Tyler Crosby hasn't practiced with an ankle. Kenny Galladay has yet to come back to practice with a hip. Jeff Okudah with a groin hasn't practiced. These number of players have been limited. Austin Bryant with a thigh, Deshaun Hand with a groin, CJ Moore with an ankle, Matthew Stafford with a thigh, and then DeAndre Swift with an ankle. Start with Detroit side of the ball. I mean, they definitely, found a way to get that win and can make the comeback happen against Chicago last week. I definitely found it fun that first of all, I definitely I called it wrong. Teams always seem to win after they fire their coach, but it's kind of funny because Matt Patricia struggled to beat Mitch Trubisky as the Lions head coach, and they also struggled to come back in games. And then literally the first game after he gets fired, they beat Mitch Trubisky and they came back to win a game. So obviously the players were pretty motivated again once Patricia left that organization last week after being fired. But I think this is going to be a comeback down to earth moment for the team against Green Bay. But I mean, there is a story they can maybe pull it off, but I don't really trust their offense without Kenny Galladay to keep up with an Aaron Rodgers-led offense. But, the Packers defense, they do struggle to stop the run. So it does sound like Swift should be back at least in a limited snap basis. So maybe a Swift and Adrian Peterson and Kenny Galladay, if all those guys can maybe combine their effort to get the ground game going and control the clock and keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. And then Stafford can just be, protect the ball, no forced turnovers, get the ball to TJ Hawkinson, Marvin Jones, Quintus Cephas, and those guys, and just, convert those drives into touchdowns and play clock control. Yeah, definitely there's a story you can be written with, but I really don't see it happening, especially with Kenny Galladay being out. I think they're more than capable of having those 2 to 3 touchdown drives. I just don't think 2 to 3 touchdowns are going to be enough to beat the Green Bay offense on Sunday. Speaking of the Green Bay offense, it doesn't matter, whose week it is. It's always Devontae Adams' week in Green Bay. I think that's going to continue against that Detroit defense, who's out Jeff Okudah. Their second cornerback, Desmond Trufant. He's on IR. So they're going to struggle. They already struggle to stop the run. Honestly, it's probably going to be an Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams type of day. And then Aaron will pick them apart when he needs to. Devontae will take them deep. He'll probably see an MVS type of big play performance on the day. Alan Lazard will be involved. I think they're going to score 4+ touchdowns on the afternoon. I know, it's pretty much, I know you can argue Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers for the MVP. I could see them, Rodgers wanting to maybe get 4+ touchdowns and increase that touchdown to interception ratio that's phenomenal. I think Pro Football referenced it the other day. Like, he's going to be like the first quarterback to have an unreal touchdown to interception ratio this season. I wish I had the stat in front of me, but let's go ahead and wrap it up. Green Bay handles their business. They win I think they should be able to win like a 35-21 type of win on Sunday.
Before we go on, Cody, there is some news from a previous game that you've already discussed. Texans head coach Romeo Crennel said David Johnson might not make the trip to Chicago due to a personal issue that has caused him to miss practice today. So wow. Duke on the list. That's going to be a rough one for Deshaun.
Yeah, damn. That still doesn't even change it up for me. It's not like David came back and completely lit up the world last week, but man, that makes me, because Long story short, I traded Naheem Hines for David Johnson and T. Higgins in my money league, and in that league, I just lost Antonio Gibson, and then Miles Sanders has been the disappointment from last week. He's got a bad matchup, so I was going to play David Johnson in my flex, but then I saw Giovanni Bernard was available in the waivers, and I got him. So I actually already slid Gio in my flex. So I'm glad I made that move. Now let's get off Cody's personal business and get back to the show. I was kind of having a little self conversation with how happy I am that I picked up Bernard the other day off the waivers. Okay, Sunday Night Football. We got two matchups, guys. Let's see. It's 11:45. I'm actually going to probably get you guys out here because I know this show has already been an hour and 15 minutes for you guys. All right, so Bills, Brandon Beane, their GM, who I think the Bills end up winning the division, which I think they will. This guy's going to be in line to potentially win the Executive of the Year award. Brandon Beane for the Bills, the GM, he has agreed to a multi-year extension. I believe that puts him through 2025, if I remember reading that right last night. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this injury report on the Steelers side. This could be a big one, especially when you got like Stephon Diggs in this passing attack they're about to head against. Joe Hayden hasn't practiced this week with a concussion, and then Robert Spillane hasn't practiced with a knee, and then Chase Claypool hasn't practiced this week with an illness. On the opposite side of the ball, Jaquan Johnson has practiced with an ankle, and then these three players have been limited for Buffalo. John Feliciano with a knee and foot, Quentin Jefferson with a hip, and then Andres Roberts hasn't been limited with an Achilles. Starting with the Bills' offensive side of the ball, that they got really back on track last week against San Francisco, but they do definitely have a tougher now. They have a tougher matchup, right? But then you're talking about a Steelers defense that recently lost Bud Dupree in the recent weeks. Robert Spillane has, he's not a world beater at the linebacker position, but they already lost Devin Bush. And then Spillane has been a pleasant surprise to their defense. And then I want to say Avery Williamson has been placed on the list. I don't know if he's a close contact or not. So they're down two of their linebackers. And then Joe Hayden, if he doesn't get a practice in, that doesn't point well that he's going to be playing Sunday. So it's going to be a less than 100% Pittsburgh Steelers defense, but at the end of the day, they still got Cam Hayward, T.J. Watt, Mika Fitzpatrick. They still got some pieces that can help them win games. With that being said, I think the Buffalo's offense, I think they're gonna be able to move the ball though because of those injuries. I think they're gonna be able to get the ground game going with Devin Singletary, and Josh Allen's gonna be able to extend plays with his legs. And then when he can extend those plays with his legs, he's going to find, Stephon Diggs down the field, Cole Beasley, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox. I think they're going to be able to move the chains and put the team into scoring position. Now, what it will come down to is them converting any type of red zone trips into touchdowns and not settling for field goals. If they end up settling for field goals, I think that doesn't bode well for them because of that Pittsburgh offense is more than capable, of putting up points against that Buffalo Bills defense. But I do think the Bills are going to score at least 2 to 3 touchdowns on the Steelers Sunday night. Now, going to the opposite side of the ball, Pittsburgh's offense, they got to figure out their rushing attack. Now they will be getting back James Conner this week, so maybe either him himself or a committee with him and Benny Snell can get the running game going. But I will say this: Buffalo's defense has been bottling up. They've been doing a good job of bottling up the running attack of opposing offenses over the previous weeks. We saw them kind of give fits to the, most of the time efficient rushing attack of San Francisco on Monday night. So I think if Steelers can figure out a way to get the running game going, play a little clock control, and then have Big Ben pick apart that defense when needed, to Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Eric Ebron, and I assume Chase Claypool will be able to go by Sunday. If they can take off the top of the defense and pick them apart at times, I definitely see it happening. I think this is actually honestly setting up because of the injuries to the Pittsburgh defense. I think this is kind of sneakily setting up to be a potential shootout type of performance. I think we're going to see, the younger version of Big Ben, in my opinion, against the older version of Big Ben, which is more of a conservative approach with his arm, go at it on Sunday night. I'm actually very looking forward to this matchup. But man, I think right now it just feels like this. I don't know if like I want to call it. I don't know what to view the Steelers because like yeah, it's just one loss against Washington, but even in previous weeks, it kind of just seems like there was something off about this Pittsburgh team. And I really don't trust them heading into this matchup. It seems like Buffalo's about to hit their stride heading into the playoffs. It feels like they have more momentum coming their way than what Pittsburgh does right now. And I could end up being wrong. But, I think this will come down to who has the ball last, who can get in the field goal position, maybe to score a touchdown to win. Like I was already just alluding to, I'm going to trust the Bills because I think they have more momentum swinging their way. And I just don't like all those missing pieces on the Pittsburgh defense. So I say Josh Allen leads a touchdown game winning drive Sunday night. The Bills win like a 28-24 type of win on Sunday. Then I'm gonna head into this last matchup. We got this is another big matchup too. We got Monday Night Football, Baltimore Ravens going to Cleveland to face the Browns. Let's start with the Ravens injury report. Again, this is only one day of practice, so don't read into it too much. These four players haven't practiced for Baltimore. Anthony Levine Sr. with an abdomen, Jimmy Smith with a groin, Broderick Washington with a concussion, and then Tramon Williams with a thigh. And then on the Cleveland side of the ball, these two players haven't practiced. Kadero Hodge with a hamstring, Denzel Ward with a calf, and then these two guys have been limited. Jack Conklin with a knee, and then J.C. Treader with a knee. Starting with Cleveland, man, they have really gotten back on, not back on track, but they've really gotten things going over the past couple of weeks with their passing game. Baker was dealing last week against Tennessee. And assuming the weather is right, because that's what it came down to, is what the weather is like in Cleveland as far as their passing attack. I think he could potentially keep things rolling against this Baltimore defense, but you don't want to test that secondary too much because Marcus Peters can get his hands on any ball and take it to the house. So I think what this will come down to is the battle of the trenches. Cleveland's offensive line is one of the biggest reasons why this team is winning a lot of games this year, especially when Wyatt Teller came back after his injury. They've been able to get the ground game going with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And if they can win the battle of trenches against a Calais Campbell, a Derek Wolfe, Brandon Williams, Matthew Judon, I think they're going to give themselves a chance to win this game. But, Patrick Queen's playing good ball. Their secondary is still overall pretty solid. So, man, I see an up and down actually game for that Cleveland offense, and I think I think you're going to see some drives where it's like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are breaking off runs, and that's leading into effective play action plays for Baker Mayfield. But then I see some drives where it's like maybe they try to open up the pass and then they get some pass deflections that stall the drive early. It's going to be an up and down night, I think, for Cleveland's offense. But I think they're definitely more capable of scoring I'll say 3 touchdowns against Baltimore's defense. Now, Baltimore offense, they definitely got back on track last week, but again, that's the Cowboys defense. But they are going against a Cleveland defense that still has some holes on it. They're still missing more than likely Denzel Ward. So if he's unable to play, maybe that can open up things for Marquise Brown to take off the top of the defense. Willie Snead will be back this week for them. But also Mark Andrews will be back. But, they're still, I think, suspect of giving up some sacks. Myles Garrett has been back and playing well, so I think he's going to get after them after Lamar Jackson. So I think what this will come down to for Baltimore's offense is, can Lamar be an efficient passer? If Cleveland gets up big early, can Lamar, effectively lead his team back into victory? So, man, he had some off throws last Tuesday. You can blame it that he was coming off the list too. He missed a couple weeks of action, couple weeks of practice, but I just don't know if I can trust the Baltimore passing attack until I see it on the field. Again, this might not be a game you need it. I can see both teams being a ground and pound approach, being a back and forth. game. This is probably setting up to be a low-scoring game as I think about it. Man, I really like the momentum of the Browns. I'm not reading into that Baltimore win against the Cowboys too much. I want Baltimore to prove themselves against the Browns before I can believe in them again. I think Cleveland finds a way to win a very low-scoring game. They win like a 21-17 type of win on Monday night. So that should do it. Rob, you got any questions for me before I head out?
Yeah, just a quick one. I got a gut feeling the NFL likes having these extra games during the week. Could you see them adding another day to the schedule moving forward? And if so, what day do you think they should do it
on? I definitely could see them doing it going forward. Now, I think it all depends on if they think they can give the proper rest for the teams in between. And if they do it any night, I think it should be Tuesday nights. I don't know about anybody else, but as I've gotten older, I really fell out of like watching TV shows. That's just me. I know a lot of people like to catch up on their shows or watch TV shows on a Tuesday night, but for me, most of the time I don't got really much going on a Tuesday night. I know this year we've been doing the football happy hour, and that's a reason why we chose to do the football happy hour on a Tuesday night, because there's nothing really going on for football fans. So I definitely think I could see them doing some type of Tuesday night package. Again, it's going to be dependent on like, can they give their players the proper rest in between? If I don't think you got to agree to that on the between the NFLPA and NFL. I don't think so. Maybe you do, but I think if there was a day, it's Tuesday. Wednesday's way too late. I didn't really like having a Wednesday game. That just felt odd. And then Fridays are meant for high school football.
And Saturday's college, right? So it's got to be Tuesday. Exactly. It's the only real option to me. But I think that money's going to be too good to say no to. But man, put more viewers on more games.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't be opposed to it. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get you guys out of here. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in live. If you did tune in live, make sure you do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let me see here. What are we at? Are we still at $8.99 since I begged yesterday? If you guys didn't tell a friend to subscribe to us,
we're still at $8.99, brother.
Come on, go tell a friend to subscribe. Go make a fake account and subscribe to us now. Do make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also subscribe to Blitzalytics Podcast Network, where you can get the audio version of our shows. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, you name it. One last plug. I forgot to mention this when I gave out the Blitzalytics Prospect Encyclopedia Player of Thursday Night Football. You can go order this at blitzalytics.com/shop. To order the hard copy, it's $35. The PDF is $15. Individual team PDFs are $5. And you can even go to order it off Amazon.com if you're a Prime member. But yeah, and also make sure you go tell a friend about us. We're always trying to grow this thing. I'm going to go ahead and head out. Hope you guys enjoy week 14. I will be back as a little heads up. I will be back next week for Cody Talks NFL, but the week of Christmas, I won't be doing an episode. I will remind people about that as well. I'll be going to visit my family during that time. So enjoy your week, guys. Blitz out.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.